So hey guys, con season is among us, and I've also gotten quite a few questions on people asking how to start selling merch, things that I really wish I looked up more into when I was starting out, and I was able to compile it down to at least a 5 basic list thing. So this is going to be, 5 tips on how to start selling merchandise, brand stuff, charm, stickers, shirts, the whole 9 yards. So I've made a little mini one in the past, but it was more so just talking about Redbubble and Site6 and stuff, which are still good websites. I'm not talking about them, and I still use them, but I'm talking more about having an Etsy store or, working conventions, that sort of thing. So the first thing, and this is, oh, sorry, bumped the mic there. The first and one of the most important things, I really think this is fucking important, is, and some people are gonna try to debate me, but just let me get it out. The first thing is you need to look at your following numbers. They do matter. The people who follow you, the people who watch you, friends and family, they are the ones that are more likely, especially for an online setting, they are the ones that are much more likely to buy from you than a Randy looking on the internet, And not that it's bad, your art should, do the talking for you, but when there are a lot of good artists out there I know who do not have big following, and it's not their fault, things happen, and when you're doing conventions, it can be hit or miss. It can really be a gamble, pretty much, if you don't have a big following when doing a convention. I don't consider myself to have a big following. I feel like I'm at least a dot on the corkboard now, but I know a lot of people who don't have, followings in the sense that I do and my friends do, that do just fine doing convention circuits, and that's fine too, So this is more so for overstock reasons, because unless you plan on doing a lot of conventions, a lot of shows, a lot of things like that, you're not gonna want to have a lot of merch. And now, number 2 to look into that's really important is looking at the type of merch you want to make and the type of merch that you want to sell too. Again, this is more so for conventions and art shows and stuff like that. There are some conventions that don't allow any fan art. There are some that allow half and half. There are some that only allow fan art. It all depends on the convention, the art show, the thing. And I know I get them every time I make a video like this of people trying to debate me that, selling fan art is illegal, and yeah. There are literally millions of videos on the internet talking about the logistics of it. You can look those up. I'm not going to debate that here, but I'm just saying, look into the rules, look at what you want to apply for, and look at what you want to make. I personally believe, now, fan art does sell better than original art if you don't have a following, but that being said, doing fan art, you should always do fan art for things you are a fan of. Even if you've never played it or this and that, as long as you understand it and you like it and you want to do the fan art of it, totally do it. But you can definitely tell the people who are just doing fan art to hit the beats of something that's new because they think it's gonna sell, and sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, and then you end up with some people who have a bunch of merch of a show or a game or a story and they don't even fucking like, but now they're just staring at, so that's why you want to take a really big look into it. There are some people who don't want to do any fan art. They just don't want to do fan art. They just want to do original stuff. That's fine too. Just be aware. Again, fan art is easier to sell than original stuff. I'm not saying, one is lower than the other. I personally am very happy that now, from the conventions I've seen, more original stuff is selling on equal ground as fan art. Before, it was just fan art was king. So that's always a good thing to know. So, but yeah, keep those in mind. And then the third one, get your merchandise before you apply for conventions and before you make online stores. Granted, I think you should have an account, but I don't think you should make a full web page, full this and that, when you don't have anything to have on it. That's my personal opinion. I barely make any sales on my online store. I make almost all of my money from other sources, from conventions and stuff like that. And I'm only just now getting into the convention circuit. So, it's things that you live and you learn. Now, what I mean by having the merch before you apply. My very first convention, I was given the option from a friend of mine who out of the blue was like, hey, I got into a convention, you want a table share with me? I jumped on it. I had no merch to mine. I had nothing because I kept telling myself, oh, I'll just wait until next time. I'll just wait until I'm better. I'll just wait until I get in. I was wrong. This is the biggest mistake I could have made because I ended up wasting so much more money. I made my profit back, but at the time I wasted so much money and I was so stressed out because of the fact that I wasn't prepared when I said yes, and I wasn't in a proper place to say yes. Again, the convention was a success, thank God, but I was banking on this convention working or I would have been in deep shit. It would have been really bad. So you never want to go into that with that mindset. You need to be able to take the loss, in my opinion. It's kind of like, and this sounds bad, but it's a lot like the stock market. Never put more in that you're not willing to lose. So I see people who they will put the entirety of their life savings into merch, into this thing, into an endeavor, and it not working out. And now they're just overstocked. They have all this stuff they can't sell. They hate it. And, maybe it's outdated at the time. And now it was just a waste of money. So you need to have the merchandise before you apply. Now, the next thing is I really think you need to invest into going small. Budget properly. This is number 4. Now, what I mean by this. So I'm a bitch that likes a good sale. I always talk about getting stuff on sale, getting the most bang for your buck. And I've learned with merchandise, unless you have the money to invest in that, honestly, the best bang for your buck is to get the smaller quantity of items. This was something my friend told me. I was under the impression I need 20 of each thing. I need no. And all of my friends were like, no, bitch, like get like 8. Maybe 10 of each thing. Don't go big or go home. My dumbass went big and went home. And now I'm sitting on a fuck ton of charms still that I'm probably going to sit on for a long time while I'm making new merch and I'm learning from it. And so in doing so, I thought, no, I need this and that. And so I ended up investing a lot more money to where, yes, I made profit, but my break even was so much higher than it would have been if I went small. A good example, big quality orders. Whenever you look on websites, that do like charm orders, just because it's the easiest one on the top of my head, the best deal is more charms for more money, because you end up in the long run spending less money for more merch. So they'll do something where it's like, okay, if you buy, 25 charms, it'll be like, I don't know, like, $30, $40, depending on the size, So that's like, okay, it's still a decent profit. But if you get like 500 charms, you're only paying like, you're paying a couple $100. Well, you're paying, obviously in the hundreds. But it's one of those like, okay, since you're getting a bigger quantity, you are now spending less money. So each charm getting made is only about, $1, maybe even less in some cases, depending on where you go and the size and what you're getting. But, not everyone can afford putting down hundreds of dollars on that much merchandise. Now, if you're making enough and you're doing enough conventions and you're making enough with your store, obviously you can afford it and that is the best way to go. But if you're just starting out, go small. A lot of people aren't going to like the deal. I've had friends try to debate me, be like, oh, maybe. If that's the case, find a friend to do a group order with. You would be surprised how many friends will do group orders with where you can get a small quantity for a good price and everybody's pitching in. Those are completely legal. They're not illegal. And that way, in a way, everybody wins. But if you can't do that, if you don't have someone who you can invest with, go small. Yes, your money back will be less than if you did a bigger order, but your overall profit is going to be easier to make. It's better than, and I've seen some people debate like, okay, well, if you're doing a lot of conventions, you don't have to worry about that sort of thing. You shouldn't even put the price of your convention in because that'll carry over to more cons. And that is true. That is very true. If you are doing multiple cons, multiple art shows, multiple this and that. I'm not in a place financially to do multiple ones yet. I know a lot of people who don't have the financial stability to do a lot of them yet. It's why you see a lot of people who invest in, really expensive printers, even though their prints don't sell that well, and really expensive this and that, and this and that, and this and that, and then they're just on these tools that are very handy and very helpful, but it's going to take a long-ass while to even have that thing pay it back, then doing it slowly over time and, acquiring what you need. So that's why I say better go for good example of what I did was I got an order recently where I ordered 2 designs that were, I believe, 25 charms, maybe 50. No, it's 25 each. And so, I'm going to set off with a small batch of 2 designs. Now, my profit isn't going to be as high if I did it for 100 designs or 100 charms, but now it's like, okay, now I only need to make about, anywhere between $50 and $80 back, which I can do easily, than having to have, a few hundred back for just the charms, not for stickers, not for prints, not for this and that. Same goes for print orders. You can do massive print orders through places like Cat Print, and I know there's other places that do printing. I know you can also go to like Staples and Office Max, and they do prints there too. Or if you have like a paper cutter, I know a bunch of people who they'll buy like really, really big prints, but format a bunch of little prints on it and just cut it that way. That's a good way to save money in inventory. There are so many different tips and tricks out there to save and invest slowly over time. So once you feel like you have enough merch, then apply for places. Because, worst case scenario, you don't get in, open an online store, put it out there, network it, try to do things, get business cards, do this and that, and eventually you will learn. And then when you do get into conventions and art shows, now you've already got the stock. So the hard part's already done. You've got the stock, it's there. Now, some people don't like the idea of sitting on things, and that's also why I suggest smaller quantities. Trust me, as someone who learned, it is so much nicer to sit on a tiny quantity of something that didn't sell than having like 50 of them. And it's like I said, it's a learning experience. And so that's what I've learned for the future. That's what I'm going to keep doing until I can afford to do bigger orders and have a bigger inventory. You have to start off small to get big. A lot of people just see, oh my God, so-and-so made $5,000 at an art convention. And it's like, yeah, but they probably had a very low overhead because they probably had all that merch made to begin with, or they were able to do it for a lot cheaper. So their overhead is a lot lower than someone else's. You gotta vary it here and there. And so another really good thing is, on top of having a small portion of stuff, find a table or shop buddy is my last tip. Now, what is a table or shop buddy? It's exactly like it says. Find someone to have to cost with. Find a business partner. You would be surprised how many artists table share, how many artists merch share, how many artists do shared stores. And that way, your funds are split with somebody. So again, you're not fighting all of the thing. Now, again, you need to make sure when you are doing this that you find someone who is just as serious as you are. If you find someone that is just going along for the ride or suiting on your coattails, it's not going to work out. It's going to be more stressful. You need to find someone to be even Stevens with. There are also conventions you have to look out for that you can't table share with. They're very strict about not table sharing. You can have an art buddy, but you can't table share. I got into a convention of those recently, and when I do that convention, I'll obviously do a video and explaining my experience and stuff with it. But before that, I've only ever done table shares, and I'm going to do another table share this year. And I think that's also a great way, because that way, those little tables, they don't look that big when doing conventions and online stores and stuff. They don't look that big. When I got there, I remember Holly and I looking at each other and just being like, oh, this is huge. Like, it was such a good thing we table shared, because she definitely didn't have enough for a full table, and I definitely didn't have enough for a full table. When we thought we did, we fucking didn't, okay? And it takes a while and a lot of money to invest into a full table worth of merch. But once you have that table and the supplies, the price is going to be easier. Obviously, if you have a second form of income, if you have this and that, go big or go home. You're right. If you can take the financial hit of it possibly flopping, go big or go home. But I myself could not afford that. And I know a lot of people can't afford that financial flop. So try to find somebody. It's obviously easier if you're also close to them, better than just asking random people on the internet or random people online. Same goes for Etsy stores. I have seen a lot of artists do joint Etsy shops and store envy shops, where that way, you're both networking, you're both getting your name out there, and even if you have different audiences, it'll look like, there and there. And some people will try to argue like, oh, but what about different aesthetics? What about this and that? Yes, that could be an issue, but when you're starting out, does that really matter? I know it sounds bad, but when it's starting out, you can look professionally and have different aesthetics that work and are in one setting, because then maybe you'll find people who wouldn't normally look at your stuff looking at your stuff, or vice versa. I've had some friends who have very distinctive styles compared to mine, and people found us doing collabs, and they're like, wow, I never would have looked for your stuff if it wasn't for doing something with so-and-so, or vice versa, And you find those out, and you learn and you network. So that's why try to find a table buddy, try to find a shop buddy. That way you're only having to worry about half of the stuff compared to a full investment. So those are my 5 tips. I hope they helped. I know they helped me, but they were things that I had to learn. I didn't really find videos talking about this sort of thing. And if there are, well, I never found them, so hopefully this did help you guys, and I didn't ramble off too off topic. I tried to stay on point, and as always, guys, I will see you next time. Bye!